What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are attempting to three-peat with our Pittsburgh Pirates. It is June 28th, 2032, and we're at the midseason mark. Our Pirates stand top of the NL Central, 49-30. Like I mentioned, looking to make it back to the playoffs and defend our status as two-time World Series champions. So, a lot of expectations on the team this year. In today's episode, though, we're going to sort of pivot our attention a little bit toward the future. We're going to get to the first-year player draft at the very end of the episode. Like I mentioned, we are here on June 28th. We're going to cover some limited ground today, go all the way up to the first-year player draft, simulate to our pick, and then kind of review the options available to us on the board at that time. And then I'll cut it there and let you guys have some... or have a chance to give some feedback in the comments on, who you would take if you were me. So, a lot to look forward to. We're also going to review some stats. We kind of pushed that to this episode. A lot of baseball has been played, obviously, being at the midseason mark. We have, performance to review, and we can kind of just take a step back on the team and make sure everything that we're currently doing makes sense for us. So, appreciate you guys sticking with me, returning for another video in the series. The support has been awesome to see, even on older episodes. Like, I'm sure a lot of you are finding these, long after I originally posted them. Just, I appreciate your viewership as well, too. So feel free to chime in the comments as well with, your thoughts on the series and my decisions. I'm happy to revisit those down the line and talk things out with you there. So without further ado, let's get into some stats. And before we look at our stats, we received a comment on a recent video asking about, the performance of Fernando Tatis Jr. And this sort of got the wheels turning in my brain of it would be fun to kind of look back at a lot of the popular Major League players of today and kind of see how their careers have unfolded in this simulation. So I made a list of guys I want to check out here, and we can kind of go through and see how, everyone has done. It's now 2032, we're several years removed from real life at this point, 5+ years into the future, and a lot has happened. So if we kind of go guy by guy here, we'll start with Tatis because that was the player the comment mentioned, and overall he is still quite good on paper. At this point he is 33 years old. He's wrecked physically, but has remained with San Diego throughout the sim. If we go to his career stats here, you can see his games played totals have sort of started to deteriorate here in the 2030s. He's now just playing closer to 120, 115 games per season. But he's still producing at a pretty high clip, I would say, close to 2020. The power appears to have dipped a bit, and, he's not, performing at the same highs he was maybe back in 2027 where he had over 100 RBI and has never reached, the same 40+ homer season since, but is up to 311 career homers, 45.6 career WAR, OPSing over 800, a 120 WRC plus on his career. So, and he appears to be playing well this season. He's got a 137 WRC plus at the plate. So, a little bit wrecked here physically. I was going to look at his injury history as well. There are a couple strained ab muscle, sprained ankle, elbow contusion, fractured hand, elbow tendonitis, several, month to month and a half injuries here. Severe hip strain in 2029 put him out 6 months. So he's kind of been going through it, but is still a highly decorated player. San Diego has never really factored in the sim. It's always been the Dodgers and I think maybe the Giants coming out of the West. So the team as a whole in San Diego has not been doing well, but Fernando Tatis is still playing and healthy. This next one actually caught me by surprise. Shohei Ohtani has retired, and I was like, what? How did I miss that? And he actually retired 2 years ago, you guys, in 2030, and I think this is just mostly a consequence of injury. We'll get into that in a bit, but he retires as a 5-time MVP, 1-time World Series champion. I guess this is only rewarded in the game, so I guess technically 2-time World Series champion, as this just says 2027, but we all know that they won in real life. So he retires. He's now 36. We're looking at his batting stats here, his career batting stats. He ends at 393 homers, a 144 WRC plus hitter, 56.8 WAR. And you can see the games played just kind of fell off a cliff starting in 2027, where he was not able to make it onto the field very often. He was still stealing a ton of bags even late into his career, but the counting production was just not there due to the volume of games played, even though he was still a 2.2 WAR hitter in as late as 2029. Pitching wise, he ended up pitching over 1,100 innings, 21.2 WAR on the career, over 10 K per nine. Super solid stat. I don't have strikeouts listed on this stat view, so I can't see his total strikeouts over the course of his career, but I think injuries played a big factor here, because it's bad when you have to scroll and get to the bottom of his injury report here in 2026. So if I look for major injuries, partially torn labrum, fractured thumb, finger blister, strained Achilles tendon, and then it looked like a torn rotator cuff kind of put him out of business in 2030. So career cut short, I would say, but obviously one of the best players of our generation in real life. We stick with the Dodger theme and go over to Mookie Betts. Mookie is actually still playing somehow. Just a 40 grade guy, has got work in 27 games this season and is a full negative WAR player, but he's extremely popular, has been in the league 17 years at this point. His career batting stats: 364 homer, over 1,200 RBI, career 270 hitter, 821 OPS, 124 WRC plus for 58.9 WAR. So Mookie is still doing it in LA in the final year of his contract, and he has announced his retirement at the end of this season. So he's calling it quits, almost 40. Unsurprising. But if we go to Freddie Freeman now, Freddie retired also in 2030, but had not played with the Dodgers since 2027. He made his way to Philly for 2 seasons and then ended in Kansas City, and he was kind of a workhorse the whole way through. Played a ton of games, was not, the strongest hitter kind of in his final year in LA and, the subsequent years, but finishes with 457 homers, 86.3 WAR. For the first baseman, definitely a Hall of Fame, bound. Won the MVP obviously in 2020 and got 2 World Series championships in LA. So that's a wrap on the Dodgers. Let's pivot to the Yankees now. Let's check in on Aaron Judge. He is also retired. 2030 was a real tough year for our generation of baseball superstars. You had Shohei, Freddie, and Aaron Judge all retire that year. Final year for Aaron Judge, just cut short by injury, I think. 96 games played. Otherwise, he was a workhorse throughout the sim, 40-plus homers every year, 50-plus these 2 years, tons of RBI, 163 WRC plus hitter, 78.7 WAR, 580 home runs. Ends his career pretty early, I would say. A little unexpected, but it was due to injury, I'm pretty sure, because he had a ruptured MCL, and I see a setback here that was out 7 months. So I don't know that he also had a broken kneecap 2 years prior, so it's kind of a health issue, strained Achilles tendon as well. Maybe that kind of forced him to retire. It looks like he detrimentally completed strength and conditioning program in the off season, and then shortly thereafter suffered the ruptured MCL, had a setback, and then ended up retiring, decided it wasn't worth it. So he ends up retiring 4-time MVP, great hitter, obviously, 580 home runs, is maybe less than you would expect him to end with. So let's check in on Giancarlo while we're also on the Yankees. I'm curious his homer total. It looks like he finishes with 472, so he doesn't quite make it to 500 in 2027. Was only able to play 56 games, only 108 in 2026. So kind of deteriorated quickly. But overall, 53.9 WAR player, had some tremendous seasons back in the day in Miami, and has been good for the Yankees in real life too, especially in the postseason. So sad that he couldn't continue on further. A couple more players here. Obviously, we need to check in on Mike Trout. Mike Trout actually retired in 2027, which would be shocking. Can you imagine if he retires in just 2 years from now? I think that would be very surprising, but he was a really bad player that season. He was a negative 1.5 WAR player and maybe just fell out of love with baseball. He was with the Angels, career Angel in LA, finishes with 423 homers, just over 1,000 RBI for 81 WAR. So injuries obviously played a factor. I don't know if that's why he ended up retiring or not. It looks like he suffered several in 2027. So maybe the plantar fasciitis kind of flared up on him twice, and he was just like, I'm going home. But he retires really early after, 16 years of his career. And we will also check in on Bryce Harper. This is the last one I have written down. Bryce Harper's actually still playing for the Rockies, and he has not announced his retirement yet. So he is 39 years young, almost 40, 20-plus years of service time. According to our scout, he can still play. He can still walk, and he can still hit doubles. The production, he's just kind of been a league average hitter this season in 32 games. But his career stats at this point look pretty solid. He actually left Philly to go to Arizona for 4 seasons in this universe and has kind of just been a league average player ever since then. 2.2 WAR in his final season in Philly. In Arizona, he never really caught on, just kind of like half WAR seasons. Actually was a negative WAR player in 2029, but over the course of his career has hit 452 homers, over 1,400 RBI, and 71.1 WAR for Bryce Harper. So has definitely lived up to expectations. Put a lot of pressure on himself to be a great player, drafted number 1 overall. Everyone knows the story. So, he's definitely lived up to that and more. So those are, some. If I missed anyone, let me know in the comments. I'll make sure to double back on them. I think, guys like Verlander and Scherzer, we've already seen them get inducted into the Hall of Fame. So if you're curious about anyone else, happy to look. But let's take a dive into our first half stats here and kind of audit our team as a whole. We'll go ahead and get started with our pitching here, and I want to kind of zoom in on starters versus relievers. We're not going to go player by player, but we're going to look at it in this table view and sort of determine how things are going. So obviously we know Dan Beebe is like the most broken, overpowered pitcher in the simulation, and he's going to be awesome. But just to like truly appreciate what he's been able to do for us this season, he's already up to 122 innings pitched at the halfway point, has a 3.26 ERA plus. The ERA is a 1.25, and the WHIP is sub 1 as well, with the FIP at 2.55. This is, debatably the greatest pitching season I've ever seen. We'll see how he ends up pacing and what he ends up finishing with, but 122 innings in 17 games is outrageous when you look at it compared to like the volume of innings everyone else is getting in just like 1 to 2 fewer games. So it's actually crazy what he's been able to do. Hitters hitting just 159 off of him, and he has a left on base percentage of almost 87%, which is like light. It's almost like as if you were a closer, throwing 100 plus for 8 innings every outing. So really broken player. Obviously super thankful that we drafted him number 1 overall back in the day. So beyond that, if we zoom into our, I feel like we have 2, pretty strong guys here next. We have Brian Hiles and Finn McElroy. If we're just sorting off of WAR here, we'll take a look at each. They've kind of been very similar. Very close ERA pluses here. FIP minuses just hovering on league average, like slightly, a little bit good. I'm not going to go crazy over a 94 FIP minus, but it is positive, Same for a 99, pretty much just average for McElroy. Both not walking a ton of guys, holding it steady at like 3 per 9. You really don't want too much higher than that. And their strikeout minus walk is, I would say, acceptable for a starter. Like 15% plus is like pretty decent. Nothing elite, but I feel pretty good about both of them being our 2 and 3 starters currently. Obviously, they're not going to be innings eaters, but they're overall pretty reliable. Melvin Salazar is next here in terms of our WAR. He is the youngest player in our rotation, 24 and 11 days, has some upside in his movement that I would like to tap into. The issue with him is control. He only has a 40 control rating, and that's evident in his stats, I think. If you pop back here to his line item, his ERA is a little bit inflated. He took a while to settle in with us. His FIP minus is also a bit inflated, but he's limiting the homer, which I like. The issue, like I mentioned, is just the walks. Like 5.5 per 9 is pretty unacceptable. If we were a weaker team, this would be a real problem, but I think our offense can kind of make up for it. And I'm willing to keep running him out there to try to get him to improve. He's already, I think, shown signs of improvement over the course of the season. Ultimately, a half a win above replacement. And if we go to his actual like monthly splits here, we can see he was just kind of a replacement level player in April and May. In June, however, things are starting to trend in the right direction. He's got a good ERA plus, good FIP minus. The walks are a little bit down. I mean, it's still close to 5, but it's not as high as it was early in the season when it was near 8. So he's bringing that down. He's a 0.4 WAR player in June. Hopefully, we can keep that good momentum going with him. And currently, he's our 4 starter. Like a guy who's probably been the weakest is Jared Jones here, who's really kind of fallen off a cliff. He's not super old. He's only 30. I'll click on his player card in a minute. But just in terms of FIP minus, he's our worst player. He's averaging over 2.2 homer per 9, which is really not good, especially in our park where it's difficult to hit homers. Seeing a stat like this makes me terrified to pitch him on the road. And even though the strikeout minus walk is decent, like he is striking guys out, and his ERA plus on the whole is somewhat positive. It's just very risky running him out there. He's not walking guys, which is good. So I think he's like passable for the time being, but I don't feel great about having him in our rotation much. The stuff has regressed all the way down to a 50. He's still an extreme fly ball pitcher and really vulnerable to the home run, which is evident in his stats. So he's really kind of fallen off now over 7 years of service time in his final contract year with us. So definitely not going to bring him back, but financially committed to him for this season at least. And if we go into his ratings, you'll see he's really vulnerable against left-handed batters, which is probably where the majority of those homers are coming from with him. So bumped him down to our 5 starter in the last couple of weeks of game time to just try to give him fewer starts essentially, even though his surface level ERA is stronger than Salazar. I think Salazar is a better pitcher than him long term. And I actually just realized I misspoke saying Salazar is our youngest pitcher. It's actually Brian Hiles. Brian Hiles is still just 23. And he's a bit of an anomaly for me. He's nearly 24. So we see in the eyes of our scout, he is pretty much capped on a lot of his ratings here. But in the OSA's view, they see a lot more growth potential with him. And I'm kind of left wondering where the disconnect is. But maybe he's just a more a favorability guy versus a toolsy guy. I mean, he doesn't have great measurables, so maybe that's a disconnect. So that's kind of our starting pitching currently. If thinking ahead to the trade deadline, I think I would like to add another high tier starting pitcher, in which case maybe we would waive and DFA Jared Jones, just get out from under it, something like that, and then Hiles, Salazar get bumped down depending on the quality of the player we bring in. But let's take a look at relievers now. If we go to all relievers here, Cole Stokes, our closer, has been awesome. 17 shutdowns, only 3 meltdowns. Really love his ability to limit the homer, only 0.3 per 9 there. His FIP minus also tremendous. His whip really good at 0.82. I think he's been one of the best closers in all of baseball, 21 saves, only 2 blown so far on the year, and his movement actually ticked up a little bit further. So he kind of came out of nowhere for us. He's a late bloomer for sure. We drafted him very early in the sim 2026, and he has finally come along as our captain in the bullpen. Orion Kirkering has also had a bit of a resurgence here. We don't have a great bullpen. I should have said that from the top. I need to make changes with this, and I'm going to in between cuts here. But we only have a couple guys who are generating WAR for us in here, and Orion Kirkering is one of those guys. He's got a lot of work at middle relief so far this season. Bumping him up to setup is a recent development ever since the injury to Cole Sands a couple of weeks ago. We needed someone else on the back end because Zimmerman and Hudson have very low stamina. I like to have 3 guys here so our manager can kind of just rotate and choose. So we bumped up Kirkering, and his scouting reports have actually been ticking in a positive direction. He sort of fell off a bit for us, I want to say in 2030. Had a good bounce back year in 2031 last season where we were just strictly using him in middle relief. And then this year has kind of continued the trend where his overall rating improved in his most recent scouting report. And we think his splits are a little more tolerable here where he's, capable against both ways. He's really effective against right-handed batters. So he's been pretty good, I would say, although it's not perfect. His ERA plus is, below average. I don't think he is limiting contact in a way that would make him a high leverage arm. His BABIP is 324, is kind of rough. Only 60% left on base percentage for him. Brian Hudson has been pretty good. Good ERA plus, good FIP minus. Don't really have many complaints about him as our leverage lefty. I think he has been solid, even though he is now just a 40 grade potential in the eyes of our scout. I think he's lost quite a bit of his velocity. His stuff dropped from 60 down to 55. And I think he's likely on his last legs with us as he is, 35 years old. But on paper, I still think he is capable, and he's, one of our safer left-handed options. So no complaints there. Bill Zimmerman, 31 games of action. He has been thrown out there quite a lot. I think that's the most out of anyone here except Tyler August. So he's getting a ton of exposure, and the home runs are kind of an issue with him. 2.1 per 9 is really not good. So I think we're going to look to bump him down to a lower leverage role. Even though he leads us in strikeout per 9, the homers are just a liability in close games on the back end. Obviously, that's not what you want out of a setup role. So we're going to try to, he's still a very young player. He's still just 23, newly turned 23, has never really, he got a limited run with us last season and played with us in the playoffs, but is still relatively young player, new to it. So I would expect there to be some volatility, some up and down with him. And that has sort of reared its head this season in the form of homers. So while I like him long-term and see great potential out of him, I think we're going to look to decrease his role. Ben Abel, as lefty specialist, I think has been good. This ERA plus FIP minus look good. Striking out 10.5 per 9, I think solid. I view him as a great lefty specialist, and he's 28, so going to keep him on. Antoine Kelly is a guy who we just kind of yank up and down when we need him due to injury. He's not lights out in any capacity, but he can eat innings, I think. Still a relatively early sample of 11 games here. Kind of just profiling as a league average player. The ERA plus and FIP minus are actually slightly negative with him. Although I want to give him a little bit more runway just to be certain. The guys who are really giving me issues here are JoJo Romero and Tyler August, both of which I think we might send down in the in the case of August, and we are probably just going to DFA JoJo Romero. So maybe a bit of a surprise there, but I think he's just losing it in his old age. The ERA plus is not good. The FIP is very elevated. We're trying to play him against both, we're giving him a standard middle relief role, exposure to both left and right-handed batters, and it's just not working. Hitters are hitting over 300 against him, and he's being thrown out there so often by our manager that I think he is likely done. His sidearm profile, his movement is no longer high enough to make up for his sidearm profile. in the scouting. He's kind of lost stamina, lost movement, lost velo, and it's kind of, even though on paper, like with these ratings, you would think like he could still be effective against both sides. I think we're going to try to cut our losses here and move on, because I think we have arms at AAA that we can bring on, and they'll give us very similar production at a younger age with more upside long term if they continue to develop. So I think JoJo is likely done. The 1.70 whip is not ideal. Similar story with Tyler August. He kind of regressed in this most recent scouting report this offseason. Even though the ERA plus is good, the FIP minus is not good, and the whip is concerning. He's walking over 5.5 per 9. The control appears to have really gone for him, and he's kind of getting blown up. Like, he's got 4 meltdowns, full negative, half WAR player. Maybe he needs a little bit of a reset. He was so good for us in 2031 last season and actually made the All-Star team, so it's kind of disappointing to see him fall off like this. But don't really want to continue running him out there if he's going to blow games at this rate. So I think it's likely we replace him, and then we're going to cut loose JoJo. So that was a little lengthy. I'll try to speed through this next bit with the lineup, and we can get moving here. All right, batters. We're going to go around the horn here, starting at catcher, and we're going to sort by WRC plus here. But, this is sort of like how you would expect things to look. Alfonso's our primary catcher against right-handed pitching, is going to be playing in the majority of games for us. We view him as the better player, and he's actually had one of his best career seasons so far opening. If you just look at his last 3 years here, 135 WRC plus is like 20% better than his previous years, 30% better than his 2030. So he's really pacing for a huge year of 5.2 WAR should all of this carry through. And I think he's been awesome. We have him currently hitting in the 3 spot. He's been hot lately. Axel Plaz, not so much. He's our platoon option against left-handed pitching, and he's really not hitting lefties all that effectively so far. So the BABIP is not great with him. Hopefully he can find it. Still just like 31 games of sample size here, but has been a pretty below average hitter at this point, likely in his final year with us as he's starting to get in later years of arbitration, higher annual salary. I think it's likely we look to move on from him, even though according to his ratings on paper, he should be effective against left-handed pitching. He has not really been so far this year. On the infield, we have a lot of guys, but not really. We're kind of stretching Alex Harrington pretty thin this season, asking him to back up second, short, and third base. I'm not really certain why we're carrying Camden Koziel, and that's actually on my list of roster moves to make. I want to bump him down and bring somebody up from AAA who I think actually could contribute, because as it stands currently, Koziel's not really playing much at all. And he's actually been bad, as you can see, a -3 WRC plus. But on the good side of things, Wyatt Sanford has played in 72 games and has 16 homer, 50 RBI at the midway point. Honestly, an MVP candidate, I would say. I don't think that he'll win it, but I would not be surprised if he is on the podium at the end of the year, should he remain healthy. He's OPSing 963, ton of, extra base hits, home runs, stealing, decent, not great, honestly, though. Caught 3 times, not the best efficiency there, but he's getting on base at a crazy rate, 392, has been really, really strong. Termar Johnson, in his final year of team control with us, we'll have to consider if we want to sign him long-term or not. He is just newly turned 28, so I think he still has a lot of, gas left in the tank. We'll see if we want to bring him back. I'm concerned at just how splitsy he can be, but obviously he's a great hitter against right-handed pitching. Only pacing for 16 home runs this season, so that would, I think, be a career low for him. But a 119 WRC plus is solid. He's coming off of actually his career best season last year, 2031, where he hit 27 homers and had a 4.7 WAR. This is more in line with what he typically does for us, but 775 OPS. We actually have him up to leadoff right now, just because he's hot so far in June. Elian Pena as well, one of our best young infielders, 24 years old. has actually hit a few more homers this season. I think 7 is, I think he's pacing for a career high. So he's pacing for 14. Last year he hit 11 for us. So that would definitely be a career high. Is good on the base paths as well. Brings that plus defense at second base. 105 WRC plus. Nothing crazy to write home about. Just been okay. Alex Harrington, we're asking a lot of him. Like, he's actually played a similar amount of games to these guys. So I have a lot of notes written down, but I also have written down to dial back his playing time. I want these guys to play more at the top. I think we were being a little ultra conservative with it, given like our lack of overall depth. We're only carrying 4 infielders. So wanted to try to get in front of it, but he's just not hitting at all. He's got a 60 WRC plus. He brings good defense, obviously, but just the stick is not there for him. And then Koziel, like we mentioned, likely gets sent back down to AAA. Outfielders, this is where the majority of our hitting is coming from, the majority of our RBI and home run, as you can see here. Edward Lantigua was injured briefly, like at the beginning of the season, but has remained hot ever since coming back. Has 9 home runs, a 128 WRC plus, one of our highest WAR total players. And now, due to the injury to Connor Griffin, he is in the field full-time in right field, where he is actually grading out to be a plus defender as well. So hoping that he can remain healthy. Our call-up of Nolan Stevens has actually gone pretty well so far. I was just Carson Benj was rage baiting me, and I just had to send him down. And I think he was getting BABIP. Like, his BABIP was only like 150 or something like that. It was just ridiculously low. But at some point, you just have to hit. And he was not hitting. So we swapped him out for Stevens. And Stevens has hit the ground running for us. This is really his first exposure to full MLB playing time. Always thought he was capable for, honestly, the last 3 seasons at AAA. And he just has not been able to find his way up. But felt like this was good timing. He's our DH currently, and so far one of our strongest hitters. Ben Small in his rookie year is up to 10 home runs, so big boy is swinging a big bat so far early in the year here, and is grading out to be an awesome player. Seth Weinberger as well is our full-time first baseman for the time being. His splits are a little confusing because, as we know on paper, he should be a generational hitter against left-handed pitching and just a average hitter against right-handed pitching. But if we go into the actual production and look at it, he's a below-average hitter against left-handed pitching and above-average hitter against right-handed pitching. So it's the exact opposite of what his ratings would indicate. That being said, he is playing full-time both sides as our first baseman. And I think he's been okay. He's been solid. He's been above replacement level. If the lefty hitting comes on, then he'll really take off, I think. Brock Kettleson is now our full-time center fielder, was previously heavily rotating in, and now is getting the full reins in center. I think he gives us the best combination of range and speed out there to replace Connor Griffin's plus defense. And I think a lot of you could argue that he should have been playing this whole time anyway, full time, given his history with the team, his postseason success. He was World Series MVP last season, I believe. And then finally, Gabe Arellano has been a little below average, I would say, not hitting at quite the rate maybe we expected him to, but I think he is slowly turning it around. He's close enough to being league average that I think it's fine. He's trending in the right direction, month over month. His splits are on the way up. So that is the state of the offense. Like I mentioned, I'm going to kick out Koziel. I'm going to make those pitching moves of, sending down Tyler August and DFAing Jojo Romero. And then I will rejoin you afterwards, and we will continue pushing along here through the early parts of the season. Not really sure why I referred to this as early parts of the season, but anyway, we've made those moves. It should be the mid part of the season, and I want to show you before we get moving here what we ended up doing. So lineup-wise, you can now see everyone here is greened out, meaning everyone, all 13 guys, are playing against some form of pitching. Our call-up was an old friend, Johnny Severino. We essentially swapped Koziel for Severino, and Severino will slide in to hit left-handed pitching as our first baseman. Seth Weinberger will then move to DH. So I felt like this was a smart call for us. Johnny has played with us the last 2 seasons in like some capacity at the majors, was off to a red hot start at AAA. If you look at the line item here, 15 home runs in 63 games, was OPSing over 1,000 for a 162 WRC plus. Can't keep production like that down at the minor leagues. He deserved another shot with us up here, and I think he brings, a valuable role of being able to hit left-handed pitching. So he's back, and we'll also back up the corners against right-handed pitching as well. So then we're moving Alex Harrington to just back up the middle, shortstop and second base. So that was the lineup move. Pitching, we bumped down Tyler August, who will, reset at AAA. We bring up Jason Solis, our second-round pick in 2028. Got some exposure with us last season. Actually started 8 games for us. And his AAA numbers this year were looking really strong. 85 innings, made 14 starts down there. The ERA plus and the FIP minus look good. The walks are elevated, but we're throwing him in the bullpen, so hopefully that limits the detriment of those a little bit more. Good left on base percentage, 82.4, was I think our best overall pitcher at the AAA level. Wanted to give him a shot at the role here, even though we kind of view his potential as a little tapped out. OSA sees it very, very differently than we do, and their accuracy is supposedly just average, so maybe it's a little in between what we see and what they see with him. We'll see how he can perform. We waived and DFA'd JoJo. I realize that may not be popular, waiving a veteran player like that, but we bring up Reynald Navarro, who is actually going to make his MLB debut. I thought he could have got up with us last season, but the production really wasn't there. He's been on our 40-man, I think, for ever since 2031. I think we sent him down last year and then sent him down to start this year. His numbers are pretty good down there, I would say. Positive ERA plus, FIP minus as well. The only hole you could poke would maybe be the long ball, but otherwise looked pretty solid, and I think brings just a more balanced profile here, more stamina as just a traditional middle relief left-handed option. Has decent splits here, although, gaining 5 points of stuff against left-handed batters. Otherwise, pretty even across both sides. We have another backup option down there. If Navarro, tends to sputter, we can send him back down and go with the plan B. But wanted to give him first shot. Love the stamina he brings there. And that's kind of the retooled bullpen. We bumped Zimmerman down to middle relief. Maybe he can reset and get it right. We'll see what Kelly can give us in a little bit larger of a sample size. Cole Stokes is due back, or Cole Sands rather. Two Coles, I get confused sometimes. But Cole Sands is due back in 5 weeks. So Kelly, we're going to need some innings out of him for sure. So that was a lot of table setting. I want to get to the draft in this episode. Obviously, we're already on June 28th here, and we only have 3 games left in the month here in June. We're going on the road to Chicago. I wonder if it's actually a 4-game set. It is not. So I think what we're going to do is just go all the way up to the first-year player draft now. If we go to the key dates here, you can see that it is on July 11th. And back to the calendar here, that would put us at the end of this series against the Angels. So we're going to rock through all of these games. We're going to do on the road at Chicago, like I mentioned. Then we start a homestand, Atlanta and St. Louis, come to Pittsburgh, before we go back to the West Coast for 2 games against the Angels, and then we will check in on the first-year player draft there. So we can do like a standings update, a team stats update, look at June as a whole once we get there, but I want to make sure we have enough time to review prospects. So I'm going to knock out these games, and then I'll check back in with you guys after. All right, y'all, we've made it to the first-year player draft here on the 11th. So far in July, pretty okay, I would say. 5-3 record on the month. If we go all the way back to June, however, I want to touch on this series at Chicago, where we went extra innings in every single game, ended up escaping with 2 victories. So we get a series win there. To start July, we sweep the Braves at home, but then lose 2 of 3 against St. Louis, have so far split on the road in Los Angeles, a couple of 1-run games there. So that brings us to 56-34. We'll take a look at the performance of our new call-ups in a bit, but standings-wise, we're still 3 games up on Cincinnati. They're a very good team, it looks like, this season, and they're right on our tail. So if we slip up at all, they could take the division, which obviously we do not want. But at 56 wins, that is good enough for tops in all of baseball. A few games up on the Padres and Dodgers. And in the East, Washington is sitting at the top. In the AL, Toronto at 52, Kansas City at 51, and Houston also at 51 lead their divisions. Dan Beebe is in the pursuit of a triple crown. It's looking pretty good. Tops in ERA by a full run plus and has 2 more wins than Luis Rodriguez in Cincinnati. Strikeouts, also a 34 tally lead against Ben Brown in New York. So he's looking awesome, obviously leading in pitcher WAR by almost a full point. And, I think the team has been playing well. If we go to, I wanted to look at our team stats as well. June was not our strongest month. Obviously, we suffered a bit of injury there, like with Connor Griffin going down and then the setback. It was really brutal. We're sort of still trying to find offensive production. We've made a ton of roster moves, and I'm feeling good about the way things are structured currently, but I think it's a little too early for those changes to impact our team rankings here. So, we're still hovering around, I would say, middle of the pack toward bottom. We're still in top third in some categories, but near the bottom. We're close to 5th, 6th in a lot of these batting categories. Pitching is really carrying, and I think it's Dan Beebe doing most of the heavy lifting. He's just been such a workhorse for us, and the bullpen ERA is starting to come around. We've kicked out those guys, JoJo and August, who are maybe dragging us a little bit down. And speaking of those guys, let's take a look. I think Reynald Navarro is the lefty we brought up to be our middle reliever. He is getting a decent amount of exposure for us so far. 7 innings of work, has been produced well, I would say. Good ERA plus. The FIP is a little elevated. He got touched up for a couple of long balls, but he's going long in a lot of these outings too. So I think he's just settling in. I still like what he's able to provide us, and we still think there's some upside to unlock with his stuff as well. Jason Solis in long relief, also just kind of league average, but still, again, super early. He's just there to eat innings when we're losing, and he's done that, I would say, admirably. He's got action in 4 games so far, so we'll keep tabs on them as the season progresses. But I wanted to, obviously jump in on the draft here. No further updates from a team perspective. Let's go ahead and bounce over to the first-year player draft. Obviously, this year's draft, we are picking near the bottom at pick 31 in the first round here. But we managed to snag that second supplemental, or the supplemental second round pick at the very end, the buzzer there. Robert Gasser signing a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't actually sure if that would apply here or not. So if we go to the, where's the mock draft here, you can see, we pick down here at 31, and then we will also pick double in the second round here. So we don't have a ton of money currently allocated to the draft this year, but we have financial flexibility if we want to go over. We have 4.1 in available money. Our draft budget currently is close to 8.5. I honestly didn't touch this at all. This is sort of just the default value it was set at when we came in. But we'll see who we like on the board and kind of play it by ear. I would say if we go back to the mock draft, presumptive number 1 pick, San Francisco jumped up from 7 to 1. The OSA values Brian Lonas as the top player in this class. The site director is a great name, has high baseball IQ, so can bring a little bit of small ball as well. Not the best base runner, but you think he has true 80 grade raw power and a plus eye with the gap power and the BABIP. The gap power will play because he has that 60 speed and appears to be a capable defender as well. Not super plus, but he can get away with it if this bat comes along. So the high schooler is, 12.5 mil, one of the high tier players in this draft we view as an 80 grade. And then there is this player, Pete Coghill, who I identified at the combine as the furthest along player in this draft. Big Splo is coming out of UCLA. So he's pretty can't miss to me. Like, he's out of a great competition level, 8 mil, really well-rounded bat, righty, first baseman, plus defender, 6'2", great personality combo here. It would be hard for me to pass on him at 1 overall. The other guy I think looks great, but the safety of drafting a 40 overall, like potential 75 grade power hitter here, obviously first base doesn't provide the defensive value that an outfielder would, but I don't think Alonis really profiles as like a true center fielder. He's likely just going to play left field and like not have a great arm out there. So kind of a toss-up between who I would take, but I think I would actually lean toward the college player Coghill there, as he is already a 40 overall. There is this guy as well, Andy Smallwood, who comes in at a 40 and is kind of, lacks the true raw power, but brings that generational gap and Eddie batting from the left side. Has a little more defensive upside. The downfall with him is that he has low work ethic and is possibly like detrimental to the clubhouse. He has like literally every personality attribute listed here in some like over-indexing way. So he's a very unique player in that sense. Asking for just 6.5. So those are kind of the top players in the class. Let's actually see who goes here. We will go through the top 3 maybe before we simulate to our pick at 31. It does look like San Francisco favors the high school center fielder Brian Lonas. There are several 80 grade players in this class according to our scout. So fingers crossed one of them makes it back to us at the end of the round. So let's get this underway, and then we'll break and I'll kind of review players I want to show you here. So we'll auto draft for San Francisco, and they do take Brian Lonas, the center fielder. Kansas City on the clock next. Appears to be favoring Glenn Schwartz, a little bit of a surprise here. So we'll see if they take him. They do, out of Indiana. And he's a great contact hitter. He's pretty far along for a college player. Only a 30 grade here, so not quite as far along as those other guys, but maybe a bit safer. Brings that plus arm in the corner, which you like, but low baseball IQ. Not a traditional power bat in the corner. Maybe more of like a Stephen Kwan-esque profile, like the good BABIP contact. Bats right. Alabama Blossom is a good name for him. Out of a great competition level in Indiana. So he goes 2. At 3, Seattle is appearing to favor Bobby Jensen. So a bit of surprise here at the top of the draft. Jensen goes. And Jensen, Big Willie, is a, prototypical lefty power bat on the infield. I think I actually like him quite a lot, even though he has very high development risk. He's relatively far along at 35, and he brings a good personality. Actually may be able to stick at shortstop, you would see, but probably safer to play him at second, but love the contact. Just an average competition level, so maybe that's where the risk is coming in, but he goes 3rd to Seattle. Looks like Philly will favor pitcher, but we're going to go ahead and get this thing moving and auto draft until our pick, and we will see who is on the clock once we get there. So, it looks like there's a great starting pitcher just off the rip. Somebody who is 45 overall currently is available on the board. We have one 80 grade player. He is a reliever. And a couple of 70 and 75 grade players as well. So there's a lot for us to look at. If we go back up to the top, it looks like Coghill went 5th. And let's see, Smallwood went 11th. So those are the 2 kind of college players we had identified as being very, very solid. So our scout would have us take Cody Summers, a 17-year-old high school outfielder who projects to have tremendous power, good baseball IQ and leader, great speed, good range. Just the strikeouts would be, the major issue there, although OSA does view a little more upside than we do. So we'll have to consider it. I typically stray away from players such as this, and then I'll also show you Jeff Flanagan here, a lefty pitcher, another short king, 5'11", 180, and wow, you guys, it's going to be hard to pass this up because the personality checks every box you would want. The only question is his velo at topping out at 89 is really terrible. Oh my God, that can't be real. But he honestly looks very similar to Mykowski, who we drafted last season, in that he has very plus control and movement. So I can imagine he will be popular with you guys just based on his initial starting point here. Not the best competition level. It's good, though. It's listed as good. And a lefty starter is something we don't really have in our toolkit. So these are his ratings relative to MLB. We think he's already there with his control and movement, and we think there's more upside to tap into. OSA sees him very similarly, so there's not much of a difference here. We can feel, I think, pretty confident that this is the player like we're getting. And with the personality traits, like, it's just so bizarre for me to want to draft a player like this, but he's going to be hard for us to pass up. So I think he is an early favorite. Let me actually jump off camera here, though, and dive in, and then I will present to you a few options to consider, and we will wrap up the episode there. All right, you guys, I've taken a look. This one's going to be pretty difficult to decide on, what we want to do here. There are several players I like, both pitchers and hitters, not just limited to these scouting recommendations either. There are a lot of quality players on the board. I've taken the liberty of highlighting a couple, and I think I'll just show you, maybe we'll work our way up from the bottom. So I went through the 60 grade batters here. I don't think any of these guys in the 60, 65 grade range are players we would take right now, but they may make sense for us with the supplemental pick, so I want to show them to you so you can sort of give me a full strategy if you want in the comments. Like, we'll have 2 picks in the second round, remember? Maybe they're available there. Starting with Donovan Weisenberg, the second baseman, brings a little bit of utility nature, has good work ethic. Think he is a plus power hitter with a good eye. Everything else pretty average, but out of the box, he's ready to contribute at the upper minors. You would think, like definitely high A, possibly double A. So I think he's a quality player. Similar, Ray Jones is actually probably my favorite of the college, like kind of second tier 60 grade players, as he is just about to be 21. He's young for the class, young for a college player. He has a good arm, can play a capable third, brings that gap power and avoid strikeout that we like. Plays well in our park, I would say. Kind of a small ball guy, not a tremendous defender by any means, but I would say a capable third baseman for the player nicknamed Horn, out of University of Maryland as well, like good competition level. And then, there are other guys here who maybe I'll take a second to look at the further we go, but none of them really caught my eye in the same way that these other players did. Aaron McConnell is like more of a true utility player, has good work ethic, has a good personality teaser, is one of the players who is like probably farthest away. I don't know that we would take him here, but because he also wants $6.5 million, so that would eat up quite a bit of our available money. OSA views him with plus power, but we see it a little bit stronger. We see him with plus I, like 75 I and 65 power. So if both of those come along, he's definitely a great player. Everything else being pretty well rounded, and think he can play capable, corner, capable second, capable third, pretty defensively versatile. So, he's on the more expensive side. Don't know that he makes a ton of sense considering we only have like 8.5 total budgeted for the draft, but felt like he was worth showing. Really, these top players here are, I think, who we're truly going to be deciding between. I guess Jim Dunn. You see Jim Dunn here. He is already a 30 overall. I don't have him highlighted just because he's kind of a contact forward shortstop who is not the best defender. I think he would be a great second baseman, third baseman. Maybe he can develop the range to stick at short. I just don't truly know. He has a good personality teaser, is decent on the base path, but doesn't ever project to have the plus power, and the lack of gap power really kind of turned me off of him. But, now you've seen him. Now you know about Jim Dunn. He is coming out of Vandy, so good competition level there. And 3.4 aligns perfectly with the slot value of our pick here. But the top guys who our scout views as 70 plus grade, We have 3 outfielders, 1 infielder, and 1 catcher. Danny Stevens is probably the outfielder I am least enamored with. Very, contact forward profile, but does bring the gap power. He is a right-handed hitter. Think he's more of a corner bat, but he doesn't really have the great arm. Does have good base running and stealing, but probably never going to be able to stick in center. 2.8 mil is his requested demand. He is a pretty newly turned 18-year-old, 18 and a half. So, definitely a lot to like definitely a speedster. Just kind of question the defensive versatility, and I think ideally want to dream on a little more power this early in the draft. Dustin Harp is maybe my favorite of these high school hitters. He's a left-handed bat, 6'3", 190. More of a corner guy, but has the plus arm, good personality combo. Decent speed, but not the best base running. I think I just like that he is projecting as being really quite well-rounded. So, above average in every category, plus gap power and avoid K, contact as well. 65 grade power is, no joke as well. That's pretty good. So kind of like the upside, he is a bit older. He's almost 19. So older for the class, older for a high school player, but is, committed to Georgia Tech, projects to be a very strong option. I'll go ahead and directly compare him to Cody Summers, the other outfielder listed here. Cody Summers is a full year younger, and he's durable, and he has a chance of growing into a true center fielder. So this is kind of the inverse profile, where he's really adept at getting on base, drawing walks, and has the 80 grade power. Still brings the 70 gap power, which I like, is a better base runner. The strikeout thing is just going to be something you have to deal with him. OSA sees it marginally better at 40 grade. We see it down to 30, and at a 20 starting point is pretty rough. His ratings relative to rookie ball, where we would throw him, he's going to get on base. He's going to hit the occasional homer, but he's going to strike out a ton down there. He's not really going to make contact. But at the same time, these tools are so elite that he, I think, is still worth considering for us. Gap power at 70, true raw power at 80, and eye off the charts at 90. You can't ignore these. If we compare him to Harp, who I like on the right, they're kind of incomparable in a sense. Cody Summers is a full year younger. Keep this in mind. He's a full year younger. So currently Harp, who is about to turn 19, has a couple of attributes that are ahead of his, and likely he is more productive immediately at rookie ball. In the long run, however, you can see how their profiles stack up. Not much contact for Summers, although he does have the BABIP. They both have 55 there. It's just 25 points of contact and 40 points in avoid K, favoring Harp, but 35 on the eye and 15 on the power. It's pretty dramatic both ways. So I feel like Harp is a little more what I typically gravitate to, but when he has 2 80 grade tools for Summers, it's hard to, or I guess you just have to think about it a little more critically. Are we willing to work with the 35 avoid K to kind of see if he can ever unlock that generational power? So bit of a tough call in terms of these outfielders. The other 70 grade options here, I don't think we're going to take catcher, even though Austin Tilton, profiles to be awesome. He's pretty far away, everything just sitting in the 20s, but has a great personality combo. Had we, I think catching, we're pretty strong in our system. We've taken catchers pretty much every year, so I don't think he makes sense for us, so I kind of crossed him off the list. The infielder that is available is Kent King, a contact forward. His contact is already pretty well developed for, being an almost 19-year-old, has good work ethic. I think also has a chance of sticking at shortstop. Has 60 range, definitely a good second baseman. Doesn't really have the plus arm you would want at short. Not the best speed or base runner. Kind of lacks eye and power. So he's not necessarily my favorite, but he is relatively far along, and he's definitely going to be able to hit at rookie ball pretty much immediately, which I think only helps his long-term development. So Those are kind of the position players I'm considering. I would say I personally favor one of Harp or Summers in the outfield, and that kind of mirrors what our scout is recommending as well. His favorite is Summers. Harp is his fourth recommendation. Summers being like one of the younger high school batters in the class. So as far as pitchers go, there are also several, I would say. And a lot of them are relievers. Like I've already highlighted a ton here. I won't go over every available player, but I'll show you. I actually don't even want to show you the relievers, if I'm being honest. I'll show you this one guy, Brian Brown, who throws left. Obviously, 280 grade pitches out of the box is crazy, and he has good work ethic and baseball IQ. Like, he's awesome. He would be like our best lefty reliever, like on our major league roster, like right now, I think. So like definitely looking to bring him on, although we do only have high scouting accuracy on him. Like OSA views him as an 80 grade. Like he's pretty much a can't miss. It's just a question of like the positional value of the reliever versus a starter. So I'm kind of like not considering him with this pick. But if he's on the board with our supplemental twos, like definitely going to be a possibility there. If we refine to starters, however, I have more relievers highlighted here that I like, but we'll just go to starters. Probably the most developmental and furthest away is Josh Spira. He's coming in at just a 20, but has 60 overall potential, 17 years old, only honestly just like 17 and a half, so definitely one of the younger players in the class, but has the great personality combo that we look for. Good stamina, projects to have good velo, normal pitcher, even though he is so far away, has like several attributes in the 20s, like projects to have 3 really plus pitches. It would just be like a question of being willing to like bet on a projecty pitcher like this. He's very projecty, so I think he's more of a second round option, but I did want to show him because I do like his long-term upside and his personality. As far as like players we're considering with this pick, another high school arm who is equally as projecty, also has the great personality combo and is a good leader. Steve Hebert, better at holding runners, better velo. The stuff is maybe not as prolific, but still has a great fastball changeup sinker for him. I do like him quite a bit, but maybe not as much as the other guy. I don't know. They're kind of similar if we directly compare them. Spira actually projects to have much higher stuff. It's just that Hebert is a little further along currently and brings more stamina. So it's kind of a pick your poison, but I think I do favor Spira the most out of the high school arms. The college arms are really, I think, where it's at here. And we took a look at Flanagan early, but he's not the only 40 grade player here. Like we have some 35 grade college arms as well. The other 40 grade is Luke McKenzie, who is a right-handed pitcher from Western Oregon. So only a fair competition level, so that maybe docks him a little bit, but has 3 plus pitches, the curveball as his primary being not so good. I think maybe he's my least favorite of the college arms. Great at holding runners, good stamina, low to mid 90s, good work ethic, I think saves him, projects to have plus movement, and can already get by at the major leagues. I don't know that you would want him to, but definitely could if you were desperate. 22 and 109 days for McKenzie. Mike Keplinger, maybe one of my favorites. I would say he's coming from a better competition level, and that's mainly why. He's playing at UC Irvine, which is better. 21 and 224 days, so a bit younger than the guy we just looked at. Also brings good work ethic. This is more of the archetype I typically gravitate toward, the power pitcher with the good stamina, the good velo, the fringe control. We think it's, his lacking attribute, but the fastball, slider, sinker, these two are already major league quality. This one is close. So when you think about him relative to somewhere like high A, he's going to step in and be close to dominating. Definitely on the fast track, I would say, towards contributing at the majors. It really just comes down to, can he max out this control? But I do, like him quite a bit. I like the work ethic. He's on the cheaper end of the spectrum at just $750K. So we'll take a look at the mock draft and see where he's going. Maybe it makes sense to wait. The two top guys here, we've already looked at Flanagan, but Roger Adamczyk is a short king at 5'9", 165, also from just a fair competition level, so I'm a little skeptical in, his ratings and attributes here, but looks honestly really solid, like mid to upper 90s on the velo potential, decent stamina, good work ethic. He's a baseball rat. I love all of that. 3+ pitches. The changeup is looking a little sus, but plus control, 55 potential on that. Good movement, 60 grade on that. And 22, he's a little bit older, 22 and a half. So the fair competition level and the old age maybe dock him slightly. I would say I tend to favor Keplinger, given he's younger and is coming from the great competition level, over Adamczyk and McKenzie. But I think all of them kind of fall behind Jeff Flanagan. I'm still stuck on Jeff Flanagan because he's kind of like in the middle ground where he is the oldest of the group at almost 23, but he does bring like the perfect personality, the great stamina, the great hold runners, good competition level, so not quite as strong as the other guy, Keplinger, if we directly compare them. Flanagan here on the right, you can see the upside of his movement and control just blow Keplinger out of the water. So it's like, even though he is older, he projects to be so much like more dynamic with his control and movement. Like, dynamic is maybe not the right word, but it's just so vastly in favor of Flanagan that it makes me really want to draft him, even though he's topping out at 89 on the radar. He's also coming in much, much stronger. It's like a year and a half of age separation. So plus 10 growth in all of these attributes in a year and a half is kind of a lot. Like, I don't know that Keplinger, when he's knocking on the door of being 23, has progressed as far as Flanagan is currently. So, normally older players, they have like a tighter window of realizing their potential. I think given his starting point, and where he could play immediately, he's already stepping into high A at 80 grade, so he's kind of already beyond that. If we push him to Eastern League AA, he's also 80 grade. And so it's like, where does this guy start? It's kind of a question of like, how quickly can we push him through it? Even at AAA, he's already a 65 grade. And he brings an element we don't usually have in that he's throwing from the left side. Really, the only hole you could poke would be the velo. And I just don't see that being an issue given his generational movement. So it's a tough call between, I think I would be down to Flanagan versus one of those two outfielders that we looked at earlier, which funnily enough is like exactly what our scout recommends. He has Cody Summers, he has Flanagan, and he has Harp among his top 4 players. And the last thing we'll look at here is the mock draft. As you can see, Summers was already projected to go, and so was Flanagan. So they're both kind of, we're fortunate both of them made it to us here, and I think there's little to no chance one of them makes it back to us with our next pick in the second round. So it depends like how we want to play things. Aaron McConnell was the kind of utility shortstop we looked at with the plus power eye. He's projected to be off the board here in the first round as well. So two of the players we liked, Summers and Flanagan. McConnell was kind of like in the second tier of options. If we scroll down to the second round, you can see Harp is projected to go very early there as well. So I think it would be unlikely for him to make it back to us with our number 2 pick. So like the other guys projected to go, McKenzie is projected to go. Hebert, the high school developmental arm, is projected to go. The college arms of McKenzie, Adamczyk, and Keplinger are all projected to go. Kent King, the shortstop, projected to go as well before our pick. The only players available would be Weisenberg, the very first batter we looked at, and potentially Ray Jones, the shortstop out of Maryland, would be available. Beyond that, it is only the developmental high school pitcher Josh Spira, who I actually would be in favor of grabbing with our, one of these picks up here because, again, I view him pretty highly with the great combo of personality traits and the plus stuff, even though he likely doesn't factor for us for like 5 or 6 seasons. So let me know what you think. This is going to be a tough call. Would you favor the generational power and eye of Cody Summers? Would you favor the super high floor and starting point of the lefty pitcher Jeff Flanagan? Or would you favor the contact, well-rounded, not going to strike out profile of Dustin Harp? I think all of them are solid options, and we can't go wrong, but we obviously have to make some sort of decision. So would appreciate any feedback you're able to leave in the comments. I will leave this episode here, and I will check back in a couple of days with a new episode. I think we'll let all of this kind of settle in and get a good consensus before we move forward. In that next episode, we'll complete the draft together, push through the All-Star break, and advance, I think, all the way up to the trade deadline, and we'll leave it off on July 31st. So look forward to seeing you guys back then. Until then, take it easy. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'll be back with a new episode for you very soon.